Hello, my first graders. Today we're on this week we're on lesson 24. Okay, lesson 24. So let's go over our words to know. Ready, country, soil, kinds, earth, almost, covers, warms. Okay, one more time. Ready, country, soil, kinds, earth, almost, covers, warms. So let's take a closer look at our words. Okay, here's our word ready. Okay, in the word ready, I'm sure you see the word read, but it's not ready, it's ready. But we also, when we see the word R-E-A-D, that's also the same word we use when we say, I read a book. So if you look at it that way, you have read, E, ready. The Y makes an E sound at the end of the word. Country, okay? And I know you're gonna say, oh, I see the word try, but in this word, it's country. The Y makes an E sound. Soil, okay? See the O-I in there? It makes an OI sound. Oil, soil. Kinds, the I has the long I. There's a suffix S at the end. Remember the ending? We cover that up. You see the word kind and then kinds with an S. Earth, okay? In the word earth, we have the TH at the end. Okay, this is earth, not like we live on the planet Earth, but this is earth as in soil. Okay, earth is another way of saying soil. Almost, okay, and then again, remember we talked about how when you see AL in words, that makes the all sound. All, and then most, almost. Covers, okay, again, we have the ending S at the end, so we cover that up. You see cover, ER, right, makes the sound, cover, covers. And then warms, again, there's the S at the end. We cover up that S, you see the word warm, warms, okay? So you wanna work on studying these words, okay? Don't forget when you hear that S at the end to put that S in. All right, these are all on in our book room, okay? So lesson 24 book room, okay? So you can see these and be able to read your words to know in the sentences. Right, so make sure to check that out. All right, preview the topic. Life cycle. A seed is planted. A small plant sprouts up. It grows bigger. Then beans grow on the plant. Inside, the beans are more seeds which can be planted. This is the life cycle of a bean plant. So again, inside the beans, right, there's more seeds. So you plant those seeds and then a new bean plant grows, and on the bean plant is those beans, and inside the beans are the seeds. So it keeps happening over and over again. That's what a life cycle is. An egg hatches into a tiny caterpillar. The caterpillar grows and makes a cocoon. Inside its cocoon, it changes. Then out comes a butterfly. This is the life cycle of a butterfly. So again, it lays an egg. So the butterfly lays an egg, hatches into a caterpillar. The caterpillar makes a cocoon. Then out comes a butterfly, and then the butterfly lays an egg, and then the egg becomes a caterpillar, and the caterpillar. So you see how it goes around and around. Every living thing has a life cycle. You will read about the life cycle of an apple tree in A Tree Is a Plant. Okay, so every living thing, things that are alive. Plants are something that is alive, okay? Animals are things that are alive. We are things that are alive, okay? Every living thing has a life cycle. And our story this week is A Tree Is a Plant, which is about an apple tree. So an apple tree is a living thing, and we're gonna read about the life cycle. Okay, A Tree Is a Plant. That's our story for the week. It's by Clyde Robert Bula, illustrated by Stacy Chouette. Okay, and this is about our author and our illustrator. Remember, the author is the person who writes the book, illustrator is the person who draws the pictures. So you can check that out on Think Central. The story this week is an informational text. Okay, it gives you facts. As you read, look for information and facts in the words. The pictures show details about the real world. So in this story, it's an informational text. Or remember, informational text is the same thing as nonfiction. It's a real story. It is going to give us facts as we read. The pictures are drawn pictures. So remember, nonfiction, a lot of times there's photographs, but it could have drawn pictures, and that's what you see here. Okay, a tree is a plant. So there's drawn pictures, but this is a true story, and we're going to learn about the life cycle of an apple tree. A tree is a plant. A tree is the biggest plant that grows. Most kinds of trees grow from seeds, the way most small plants do. There are many kinds of trees. Here are a few of them. How many do you know? Okay, so a tree is a plant, and a tree grows from seeds, just like any other plant. If you were to plant a flower seed, any kind of seed, it will grow into a plant. Trees come from a seed as well. This is a maple tree, a conifer tree, a persimmon tree, palms, lemon, and willow. So those are just different types of trees. And if you notice, they all look different, don't they? Every tree is different. It's a different kind of plant. This tree grows in the country. It might grow in your yard too. Do you know what kind it is? This is an apple tree. Now look at that picture. How could you tell that's an apple tree? What do you see? Yeah, there's apples growing, right? You see the apples growing on the tree. That lets us know it's an apple tree. This apple tree came from a seed. The seed was small. It grew inside an apple. Have you ever seen an apple seed? So think about it. Have you seen a seed inside an apple before? Are those little seeds, right? Small. Ask an adult to help you cut an apple in two. The seeds are in the center. They look like this. So if you cut an apple in half, you will see seeds that look just like this. They're in the middle of the apple. Okay, sometimes we call it the apple core. Now, stop for a second. If you plant apple seeds, right? If you plant an apple seed, what kind of tree is going to grow? Hopefully you said an apple tree, right? Like the seed, the kind of seed is what will grow into a tree. And it won't be a palm tree because it came from an apple. Most apple trees come from seeds that are planted. Sometimes an apple tree grows from a seed that falls to the ground. The wind blows leaves over the seed. The wind blows soil over the seed. All winter, the seed lies under the leaves and the soil. All winter, the seed lies under the ice and snow and is pushed into the ground. Spring comes, rain falls, the sun comes out and warms the earth. The seed begins to grow. So let's stop for a second because they gave us a lot of information on this page. So what they're telling us is that most apple trees come from seeds, okay? And really all apple trees come from seeds, but sometimes when you buy an apple tree, you're buying the tree and then you plant the tree, but originally it came from a seed and somebody took good care of it until they were ready to sell it and it got big enough to sell. So they come from a seed. So sometimes those seeds are planted by someone where you dig a hole and you do it on purpose. But sometimes those seeds just fall to the ground. So think about an apple, right? Sometimes you might eat an apple and then throw the rest of the apple on into the woods because an animal will eat it, right? Because apples are fruits and vegetables, and they're not really trash, and so animals can eat the remaining things. Sometimes apples don't get picked, and then they get all mushy, and when they fall to the ground, the seeds come out of the mushy apple. So sometimes they just fall to the ground, and then the seed, right, is on the ground, and the wind blows, leaves cover it to protect it. Okay, snow happens and it kind of pushes on the seed, and eventually it gets pushed into the ground. Sometimes that's from snow pushing on it, sometimes it's from somebody stepping on it, or an animal stepping on the seed and pushing it into the ground. Okay, so not all apples grow from somebody planting it. Sometimes seeds grow just because they fall to the ground. Okay, the sun shines on it, the rain falls on it. The ground or the earth starts getting warm and the seed will start to grow. Look at the little sprouts on that seed. Take a look at the picture. At first, the young plant does not look like a tree. The tree is very small. It is only a stem with 2 leaves. It has no apples on it. A tree must grow up before it has apples on it. Each year, the tree grows. It grows tall. In 7 years, it is so tall that you can stand under its branches. In the spring, there are blossoms on the tree. Spring is apple blossom time. Okay, so my first graders, what it's saying is when it first starts to grow, it's small. It only has 2 leaves when it first starts growing out, right? It doesn't look like an apple tree, does it? It just looks like a little plant, okay? It takes 7 years. Some of you are 7 years old. If somebody planted an apple seed, it would finally look like a tree by the time it got to your age. So it takes a long time for it to grow. And when it's 7 years old, you could stand under its branches. Okay, so if you can stand under its branches, it has to be an old enough tree. Okay, it takes until it's 7 years old for it to be a big tree. Okay, in spring, it said it's apple blossom time. Look at the tree. Do you see all those flowers on it? Okay, those are called blossoms. Blossoms mean little flowers. So an apple tree has little flowers first before it starts having leaves. So in the springtime is when there are flowers all over the trees and they look beautiful. So because there's blossoms, that means it's spring. The blossoms last only a few days. Then they fall to the ground. Now there are green leaves on the tree. Among the leaves there are small apples. The apples are where the blossoms were before. The apples are green and they are almost too small for you to see. The apples grow slowly. They grow all during the spring and the summer. Okay, so the blossoms happen. See the flowers, this is a closer up picture of the flowers. The blossoms are in the springtime. So in the spring you have those blossoms. They only are there for a few days. The blossoms fall off, right? The blossoms, they last a few days, they fall to the ground. And then where the blossoms were, there's green leaves. And see those little green dots? Those are the apples. They said their apples are so small, you almost don't see them. Do you see how small they are? So it's going to take a while for them to grow because it says they grow slowly. So they're going to go slowly during the spring and the summer. In the fall, they are large and ripe. They are ready to eat. We can see the apples and the leaves on the branches. We can see the branches growing out of the trunk. We can see the trunk growing out of the ground. We can see the bark of the tree. The bark covers the branches and the trunk like a coat. But there is a part of the tree that we cannot see. So let's pause for a second. Think about this season. What season did they say? Is it time for you to pick the apples? That they're large and ripe and ready to be picked? What season was that? In the fall. So the apples can be picked now because it's the fall. They're ready to be eaten. So it takes all through the spring and all through the summer for the apples to grow. Finally, in the fall, they're ready to eat. There's lots of leaves on the tree now and lots of red apples. Okay, when they talk about branches, these are the branches of the tree. Okay, the big part is the trunk of the tree. The bark covers the trunk of the tree, covers the branches, and it says it covers it like a coat. That means it goes all the way around and it protects it. Okay, it helps keep the tree safe. It needs that bark. It covers it, it keeps it safe. All right, there's a part of the tree we cannot see. Do you have a prediction? What's that part of the tree that we can't see? Okay, see if you're right. We cannot see the roots. Did you say roots? They are under the ground. Some of the roots are large. Some of them are as small as hairs. The roots grow like branches under the ground. A tree could not live without roots. Roots hold the trunk in the ground. The roots keep the tree from falling when the wind blows. Roots keep the rain from washing the tree out of the ground. Okay, so here is our apple tree. This is a picture of underneath the ground. Notice, see all the rocks in there. Oh, look, a dog buried his bone at one point in there. These are the roots. So they go down, they look kind of like hair, right? They go down. Some are really long, some are really large. Okay, others are short, some are fat, some are thin, but those roots are what keeps, here's the trunk of the tree, keeps the trunk of the tree standing up, okay? Without the roots, right? If you didn't have that holding it into the ground, when the wind would blow, the tree would just fall over. That trunk, right? The trunk, it stops at the ground, and the roots are what goes under the ground to hold it and keep it from falling. Okay, so the tree needs those roots, keeps the tree from falling over. Roots do something more. They take water from the ground. They carry the water into the trunk of the tree. The trunk carries the water to the branches. The branches carry the water to the leaves. Hundreds and hundreds of leaves grow on the branches. The leaves make food from water and air. They make food when the sun shines. The food goes into the branches. It goes into the trunk and roots. It goes to every part of the tree. So there's a lot of information. So let's take it one part at a time. So take a look at this picture. Look at the diagram it shows. What did it say about the roots? Not only does it hold the tree into the ground, but what is it getting from under the ground? It's getting water. And it's taking the water, it goes up through the roots, through the trunk, all the way to all the branches, okay? That is how a tree gets its water, okay? The rain falls down, and even though the rain hits the leaves aren't taking in the water. The roots take in the water. So the leaf goes onto the ground, right? I'm sorry, the water goes onto the ground, then it goes into the dirt, right? And that's where the roots take that water, okay? And they take it all the way up to all the parts of the tree. It's the roots that take in the water. So it takes in the water from the ground, okay? Carries it throughout the whole tree. Now look at this side on this picture. So the leaves have a job to do, okay? So the leaves, it says that it makes food from water and air, okay? So when the sun shines on the leaves, okay, it uses the water it had gotten from the roots, the air, and the sunlight, and it makes the food in the leaves. And then from the leaves, right, the food it makes in the leaves, it travels all the way through the tree, all the way down into the roots, goes to every part of the plant. So water comes from the bottom all the way up to the top. Food that it makes in the leaves and all the leaves goes through the whole tree all the way down into the roots. So every part of the tree gets food, okay, that the leaves had made. Fall comes and winter is near. The work of the leaves is over. The leaves turn yellow and brown. The leaves die and fall to the ground. So stop there for a second. After fall's over, remember in fall they pick the apples, right? When fall is coming to the end and it's getting close to winter, the apple tree leaves start changing colors and then they fall. The work of the leaves is done and it's ready to take a break for the winter. And in the spring, right, it starts all over again. So look at this picture now. Now the tree is bare. All winter it looks dead, but the tree is not dead. Under its coat of bark, the tree is alive. So remember, the bark is on the trunk, on all the branches. It's protecting it. It's like a coat, right? Protecting it like a coat. The tree is alive, even though it looks dead because there's no leaves, but it's alive underneath here, underneath the bark. Spring comes again, rain falls. So now winter is ending, spring comes, rain falls, and look what's happening in the spring again. Do you remember what happens to the tree? Do you remember what they called these? Blossoms, right? Blossoms are little flowers. The sun warms the earth. The tree blossoms and new leaves grow. As long as it lives, the apple tree grows. As long as it lives, the apple tree blossoms in the spring and apples grow on it. Okay, so as long as the tree is alive, it'll continue to have blossoms and then leaves. It goes through that cycle. When do you like apple trees best? In the spring when they are covered with blossoms? In the summer when they are covered with leaves? So think about, when do you like apple trees the best? When they have blossoms on it in the spring? In the summer when it's covered with leaves? In the winter when they are bare? Or in fall when they are covered with apples? So think, when do you like it best? All right, so my first graders, I don't know about you, I think I like it, I don't know, it's a toss-up. I kind of like it in the fall when they're covered with apples because I like to eat them. But I do like those blossoms in the spring. They are pretty. Now, I want you to think about our story. What's going to happen next in our story? We finished and it was springtime with blossoms. So after it has blossoms, right? Do you remember what happens next? Then it's going to get leaves and the apples start to grow, right? And then after the apples start growing, right? Apples grow, they pick the apples in the fall, and then it looks like this again. Now look at these apples. Remember we talked in the beginning about the apples falling off the tree, right? Sometimes they just get mushy. What happens to those seeds from those apples? Do you remember? Yeah, they could get pushed into the ground, right? And a new apple tree can grow, just like we saw in the beginning, right? With the apple seeds. So I wanted to point that out to you. Look at those apples on the ground, right? That happens sometimes. Apples fall, they get mushy. The apple protects the seed for a while, and then the apple becomes mush on the ground, and then there's a seed that can get pushed into the ground. And the cycle starts all over again. So my first graders, I encourage you to go onto Think Central. It's a very long story, but I want you to try to read it on your own so you get used to reading this story. Right? It'll be there all week for you.